to the point that we got something to, the first thing we got to go over is the year. And I don't, do you want to read it?
No,
You're born,
go ahead. You
Art
know
Scramsted,
what
born
questions you're asking.
August
Is
3rd,
Larry going to be on that
19
picture too?
Yep, both of you.
1909. And the son of Martin and Amanda Scramsted. And his dad worked at the Severson store when he was born. He was baptized on 10/3/1909 in ring soccer. And when he was younger, there isn't much going on in the little guy's life, so there's the next year in 1910, his dad was promoted to manager of the department store, of the grocery department of Severson store. And Dad bought a quarter section of land in Romness called Stony. That was in 1911. And let's see. Moved to Cooperstown, from Cooperstown to Stony in the spring. We lived in a granary until Dad finished the house.
Did you look at this picture?
Yeah, that's the granary you lived there. That's the house right
that's
there.
the one.
Yeah.
And we didn't have no insulation in the house. I just don't understand how you could keep warm on it. Because it's just this shiplap, the siding, a paper between, and on the inside it was just tin, ornamental tin.
Yeah. Well,
There was no insulation or anything.
that's the one thing about it, though. In the wintertime, they always banked it up.
Yeah, but what banking, that is nothing there.
You bank it up 5 feet.
Look at the house, banked it up, we banked it up 2 feet. Look at the house that is exposed.
Oh, yeah,
God.
yeah. There's still a lot of cold up there. I don't suppose that they walked around in there too dang comfortable. Of course, that isn't a very big house either, is it?
We stayed dressed.
Yeah. That wasn't a very big house either.
No, but
And if you had a heater in the middle of it, it would probably radiate
in that
quite a
one
bit.
room, in the kitchen they had a cook stove.
Yeah. And that's probably all, it looks like the size of the house. It had a kitchen and living room in the bottom and a bedroom on top.
That's all there was. There's one living room and a kitchen. That's all the room there was.
And you had a stove in the living room and a stove in the kitchen. And then the heat naturally rose up to I imagine you had some kind of an air duct that took or up the stairway or something, took the heat up the stairs.
Stairway. The floor really, hole in the floor.
Yeah.
And brought hot air up.
Yeah. The one that I get a kick out of is that little one that dugout when they lived in the ground. The size of it. What was the size of the first one?
Couldn't have been over
About
10 feet square.
10 feet square, and how many people had to live in there?
Oh, there's a lot of them. There's at least 7.
That seems unbelievable to me.
Mm-hmm.
That you can live 7 people in a 10-foot square or even a 12-foot. Even as big as this living room is big compared to that.
Yeah.
You can't remember Ingvall Arneson up above where we lived.
Yeah, I remember going there. Ingvall and Patina?
That was, what could it have been? Evelyn, Myrtle, Clifford, Kenneth, plus the parents. I stayed, in Edwin and Kenneth they were younger than I was, but they enjoyed visitors.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd stay there overnight. You know, go up there and probably sit and I would play some cards or some damn thing. Stay overnight.
And there wasn't hardly room enough to turn around to begin
Well,
with.
most of the time we all slept in one bed.
Yeah. Yeah. There was.
But then you see there was heat, radiated heat from 5, 6 of them in one bed.
Keep you warm.
It's like it is now. You go into a room and that's your room. And
Yeah. When you got 5 bodies in there in that bed keeping it warm, it's a lot easier to keep warm.
Anton Olson's were the same way down there where Ole Andersons live now. I go down there. Bert and I were good pals. Oh, we were cousins. And the girls, that'd be Grace and Ruby and Irene and Agnes. And Alfield and Orenda stayed downstairs. They were the youngest of them. And of course, it just heated that one room. The room, the hallway where you went downstairs, that wasn't heated. But all that was heated was that one room. Kind of comfortable with a bug in the rug, you know.
Yeah, as long as you keep that stove cooking with that.
Well, the radiation came up through the floor register.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it was done right, it could be warm even without insulation, but it takes wood to keep it.
I just can't see.
Keep cutting wood all the time to keep it up.
You just don't do it that way now.
No, now they got so much better with the insulation. Just think if they had had insulation, how comfortable they'd have been in those days.
Yeah.
They'd had a real good quality insulation. They'd have had a great time.
Of course, with that house in the side hill, well, there was frost. Eventually, the frost would go down and come out through the side walls too.
Mm-hmm. You get that. You got heat in there all the time, though. It keeps in the wintertime. And the one thing that surprises me that more people didn't do that. That didn't have dugouts. That lived in it, you know, basements. I suppose there was drawbacks to that too.
Oh,
You got to be
man,
water.
I'll say. Pat and Loretta now they complain about the water. There's surface water. They got water in their basement.
Uh-huh.
But you see, there was a reason for Grandpa to. He had a spring. There's a spring right there, and this is water that you know you can just dip into the dug a round hole and with a 10-quart pail or 12-quart pail, 16-quart pail. You could dip into the spring and water his cattle.
Yeah.
They didn't even need to go out. And then they used animal heat. The house and the barn were hooked together. So the heat from the animals helped heat the house too.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. I'd do the same thing if I could think of it. Try to keep the house warm any way you could.
Yeah.
Get it through till the next year. It's hard to understand, to me, where they put them all. That's the thing that really gets
Well,
me.
they just piled them up, that's all.
I mean, you gotta have a certain amount of furniture in the house. You gotta have a
Oh, there
stove.
was,
You gotta have a stove. You gotta have a table, probably.
well, you
I mean, it takes up space no matter what you do.
The old folks had a table and chair, 2 chairs. The kids stood around the table. They weren't sitting down. If
Yeah.
they fill up their plate, they go over in a corner and sit.
Yeah.
There was no such a thing as.
There wasn't enough room, for
That's
one thing.
right. God, you wouldn't. Beds were, that is an essential item. So when you put two beds in it wasn't as big as this room here. Probably to that south window, the west edge of that window, and over here was. You get two beds in there, and a table and two chairs. The place would be full.
Yeah. That's why I just don't understand where everybody went, how they lived with it.
Well, they occupied the bed and the chairs.
They must have just, when they were in the house, they were in the bed.
Yeah, well, they sat on the edge of it.
Cause
And even the bed like we got nowadays, that is made out of, shiplap for a spring.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just, they'd buy the sheathing and stuff it with straw. They use straw for a mattress.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've done that now. In my lifetime, Ma and I, someplace down in Arkansas. I don't know if we had the motor home or what we did, but we stayed overnight down there. God, we had a bed made of straw, and you know there was no such a thing as mattress or anything like that. That was the mattress. It's a straw container.
Yeah. If it's put together right, it's fairly comfortable too.
I know Anton Olsen's. They had a real supposed to be a real nice bed in the bedroom, and then of course the kids that slept right above the front room. The part that was made where you slept above, that is over the front room, but the other part was over their bedroom. That, of course, there was no heat that went up through the ceiling there. But I can remember both places, both Arneson's and us, and my folks never entertained kids at night. I suppose it happened that I'd have a boy or a friend stay overnight, but God, I can't. It wasn't very damn often.
It was mostly you going somewhere else then.
Yeah, I'd go visit. You know, when you were alone, why? Of course, I was 7 years old when Francis was born.
Mm-hmm. Well, you wouldn't have anybody to play with then.
No.
Too much difference in the age.
Until she got to, get bigger than Chase. It'd be hard for me to stay entertained with a girl the age of Chase.
Yeah.
When I was 6, 7 years old.
So you would be 7, and then another year or two later, you'd be 9 by the time they were old enough to play with at all. And you weren't exactly interested in playing with a 2-year-old at that point, I don't know.
That's right. It had to be all right for a little while, but
Yeah.
you got it. This is gonna be 24 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot different. But how old were you when you started out going to the woods to cut wood and stuff like that?
Oh, I was in 7th grade, 6th and 7th grade.
So 11, 12 years old then, 12 years old, that's
12. Then I just follow my dad down and hold up one end of the one-man saw.